Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we're going to start learning the basics of the C++ language and create our first class. Let's get started. Okay, so let's start creating the moving platform actor. The first step is going to be creating the C++ class. To do this, we're going to go into the tools menu up here, click on new class, and from this menu, we're going to pick the parent class. In this case, we want the moving platform to be an actor because we want to place it down into the world. Let's go ahead and pick actor. And since we have the actor selected as the parent class, we're going to get all of the built-in functionality from Unreal so that by default, our class is going to behave like an actor. Then we're going to click on next. Here we're going to give a name to our new actor class. In this case, it's going to be moving platform. The naming convention here is important. We're going to capitalize the first letter of each word. This is going to make it easier to read. It's not mandatory, but this is the usual naming convention that Unreal Engine developers use. So make sure to follow this as well. And then we can go ahead and click on Create Class. This is going to add the source code files into our project and then compile the project for us automatically. You can see that we switched over to Visual Studio and then this live coding window popped up. We're going to cover this later. For now, all you're looking for is this live coding succeeded message right here. And after that, you can just exit out of this live coding window. And then we're going to go over to Visual Studio. Here, if you get this message, you can just click on Reload All. And after that, if you take a look at the Solution Explorer, you will see that new source code files were added to the project, mainly the movingplatform.h and movingplatform.cpp. These should be opened by default automatically here. If they're not, you can just double click on them to open them up. We're going to take a look at these in just a second, but before we do that, let's go into Unreal. And in Unreal, I'm going to go into the content browser. If you don't see this, just click on it from the bottom left. And then you can just click on Dock in Layout to have it docked in the layout. On the left-hand side here, I'm just going to unfold or fold the content folder. And then I'm going to go into C++ classes, double click on Obstacle Assault. And in here, you can see the newly created moving platform actor class right here. So since we picked actor as the parent class, we can actually place this down into the game right now. We're going to left click hold, drag this into the viewport, and let it go. And if you take a look at the outliner, you can see that we now have a moving platform actor in the game. And you can also see the gizmo right here at the center at 0, 0, 0. By default though, our moving platform actor doesn't really have a transform. If you take a look at the details, there's no transform. And that is because our moving platform actor doesn't have any components yet. Components are listed here in the details panel. In Unreal, actors use components to add in different types of functionality. So for example, if we click on the floor, you can see that it has a static mesh component, which lets it display this mesh that you see right here. The brushes, if you click on them, have a brush component. Since we created an empty actor, it doesn't have any components yet, thus it doesn't have a transform. That is fine for now. We're going to address this later, but just know that you need components to add in functionality. We can save this by hitting Ctrl S and then switch over to Visual Studio. Now let's take a look at the files that were created for us. We have the movingplatform.h, which is the header file. The H stands for header. And then we have movingplatform.cpp, which stands for C++ file. So why do we have two separate files? The header file, you can think of it as the menu. It shows you what this class has in terms of its data or variables and in terms of its functionality or functions. It doesn't actually define any of that. It just shows you what it has. And the C++ file is the actual code that we're going to write. In the header file, we have the actual declaration of the class done here with the class keyword. We have the name of this class, which is a moving platform. Moving platform is the name we picked, and the A at the start of it is the naming convention of Unreal, stating that this is an actor. And you can also see that our actor moving platform is an actor. This is the parent class that we picked. After the class declaration, we have a curly brace, and at the end of it, we have a closing curly brace, and at the end of that, we have a semicolon. Everything inside of this is the contents of this class. Inside of a class declaration, you can declare functions or variables. At the moment, we only have functions here. We have this one, we have begin play, and we have tick. And like I said, these are only declarations. We don't know what these functions do. We just know that these functions belong to this class. The actual functions are written in the C++ file. So keep these names inside of your mind. A moving platform, begin play, and tick. And when we switch over to moving platform.cpp, you will see that those functions are actually defined here. We're going to do a deep dive on functions later on. For now, just know that begin play is a special type of function that is called when this actor gets into the game or is spawned into the game. In this case, since our moving platform actor is in the game world when we play the game, begin play is going to get called at the very beginning of the game. So everything that we have inside of these curly braces will be executed at the start. Now, as for your challenge, I want you to log out a message in begin play using uelog, and then I want you to recompile and test and see the result. Just in case you forgot, here is what the uelog function call looks like. We covered this in the introduction inside of the lecture titled Compiling with Visual Studio or Compiling with Xcode, depending on your operating system. If you haven't seen that video, definitely take a look at that. With that being said, pause the video, give the challenge a go, and come back when you're done. Okay, so inside of begin play, let's put a new line by hitting the enter key. I am putting these new lines to make it easier to read the code. It's not mandatory. So for example, I could put the uelog function call right there. It would be completely fine. I'm just putting it down here with a new line so that it's easier to read. It's the same thing with these indentations that you see right here, these spaces before the function starts. We can get rid of that and we can write the code like that and it would be completely fine, but we put these tabs here to make it easier to read. So we're going to type ue_log all in capital letters, and then we're going to put a set of parentheses to make the function call. And then we're going to provide the default arguments for this, which is going to be log temp, comma, display, comma, and then we're going to give it a text. For the text, we're going to create another set of parentheses. And inside of those, we're going to put double quotes, just like that. The message I'm going to print is going to be moving platform space begin play. And then at the end of the line, we're going to put a semicolon indicating that this is the end of this statement. One thing I want to teach you is, although it is kind of obvious, the code is executed from top to bottom. So for example, I'm going to copy and paste this 2 times, and I'm going to put numbers inside of these text messages. 1, 2, and 3. When this code is executed, this one will be executed first, then this one, and finally this one. So it's going from top to bottom inside of this function. So keep that in mind, and we're going to save this, exit out of the editor, and then we're going to rebuild the project. Once the rebuild is complete, we can open the project back up from the project folder by double-clicking on New Project. Also, at any point in time, if Visual Studio isn't open, you can double-click on this SLN file. Let me bring that back up here inside of the project folder to open up Visual Studio as well. And if for some reason the Visual Studio project is messed up or corrupted, you can right-click on New Project and click on Generate Visual Studio Project Files to create the project files again. And you can also do those inside of the editor as well. If you go into the Tools menu, you can click on Open Visual Studio to open the project, or you can refresh the Visual Studio project files from here as well. Cool, so all we have to do to test this is to play the game, because we should have the moving platform in the game. As you can see right here, I'm going to open up my output log. If you don't have it, you can just open it up from the bottom panel and then click on dock in browser or dock in layout. And then we can go ahead and play. And in bottom here, you can see that all of our log messages are being printed. And like I said, they are being printed in the order we specified, 1, 2, 3. So like I said, the code execution is going from top to bottom. Okay, great. So that's going to be all for this lecture. We learned how to create a brand new C++ class, and we also learned what header files are, what C++ files are, and we also learned how to print something in the begin play function, which is a special type of function that is going to get called when the actor is spawned into the game. Let's continue in the next lecture.